In the cold, fading light of November 1918, as the guns of the Great War were finally beginning to fall silent, a man named Raoul Berthelé stood quietly amid the shattered remains of a village called Allemant. Where once there had been homes, laughter, and the steady rhythm of rural life, there was now only silence, broken stone, splintered wood, and a landscape so torn apart it seemed almost unrecognizable as a place where people had ever lived. Through his camera lens, Berthelé captured not just an image, but a story that began long before the war, in a time when Allemant was just another peaceful French village. Before the storm of war arrived, Allemant rested quietly in the rolling countryside of northern France, in the region of Aisne. The land was fertile, the air calm, and the people deeply rooted in tradition. Farmers rose with the sun, tending their fields of wheat and barley, while children played along narrow dirt paths and church bells marked the passage of time. Life was simple, predictable, and steady. No one in Allemant could have imagined that their village would soon become a battlefield, a place where the fate of nations would be contested. Everything changed in 1914, when Europe plunged into the catastrophe of World War I. What many believed would be a short and decisive war quickly turned into something far more brutal and prolonged. Northern France, including the region around Allemant, became the heart of the Western Front, a long, deadly line of trenches stretching across the countryside. The German army advanced rapidly into French territory, and villages like Allemant suddenly found themselves caught in the path of war. By late 1914, the peaceful fields surrounding Allemant were transformed into defensive positions. Soldiers dug trenches into the earth, turning farmland into a maze of mud and barbed wire. The sky, once open and quiet, now echoed with the thunder of artillery. The villagers had no choice but to flee, leaving behind their homes, belongings, and memories. Allemant became a ghost village almost overnight. As the war dragged on, the importance of the land around Allemant became painfully clear. The village lay near a ridge known as the Chemin des Dames, a high stretch of ground that offered a commanding view of the surrounding area. In warfare, high ground means power. It allows armies to see their enemies, to aim their guns with deadly precision, and to control movement across the battlefield. Both the French and German armies understood this, and so the region became one of the most fiercely contested areas of the war. The Germans fortified their positions, digging deep into the earth and using underground quarries as shelters. These hidden strongholds allowed them to survive even the most intense bombardments. Above ground, however, the landscape suffered immensely. Shells rained down day after day, tearing apart buildings, roads, and fields. Each explosion reshaped the land, leaving behind craters where homes once stood. In 1917, the French launched a massive attack known as the Nivelle Offensive, hoping to break through the German lines and end the stalemate. The plan promised a quick victory, but reality proved far harsher. The offensive turned into a disaster, with heavy casualties and little gain. The fighting around the Chemin des Dames intensified, and villages like Allemant bore the brunt of this failure. The already damaged structures were reduced further, and any trace of normal life was erased. Later that same year, another battle, the Battle of La Malmaison, brought some success to the French forces. They managed to push the Germans back and regain some control over the ridge. But victory came at a cost. The bombardment required to dislodge the German defenses was immense, and the land itself paid the price. By this point, Allemant was no longer a village in the traditional sense. It was a ruin, a place of broken walls and shattered earth. The war entered its final phase in 1918, as both sides grew exhausted but continued to fight with desperate intensity. The Germans launched one last major push, hoping to win before American forces could fully join the Allies. But the tide had already begun to turn. The Allies responded with a series of powerful counterattacks, known as the 100 Days Offensive. Slowly but steadily, the German army was forced to retreat. As they withdrew, the Germans often destroyed what little remained, hoping to slow the advancing enemy. Bridges were blown up, roads were torn apart, and any usable structure was dismantled or burned. Allemant, already devastated, was left in a state of near total destruction. By the time the fighting ended in November 1918, there was almost nothing left standing. It was in this moment, after 4 years of relentless war, that Raoul Berthelé arrived with his camera. Unlike soldiers who had fought in the trenches, Berthelé observed the war from a different perspective. He was an engineer, a thinker, and a witness. As he stood among the ruins of Allemant, he saw more than destruction. He He saw a story written in stone and dust, a story of human ambition, suffering, and resilience. Through his photograph, Berthelé captured the silence that followed the storm. There were no soldiers charging, no explosions, no movement, only the stillness of a place that had endured unimaginable violence. The ruins spoke of what had been lost. Homes where families once lived, streets where children once played, and a community that had been scattered by war. But the story of Allemant did not end with destruction. After the armistice was signed on November 11, 1918, France faced the enormous task of rebuilding. The land was scarred, littered with unexploded shells and debris. Entire regions were declared too dangerous to inhabit, at least temporarily. Yet, slowly and determinedly, the people began to return. Reconstruction was not easy. It required time, resources, and an incredible amount of effort. New buildings rose where old ones had stood, though they often looked different, simpler, more practical, shaped by the lessons of war. The village of Allemant was reborn, not as it had been, but as something new, a place carrying the memory of its past within its foundations. The photograph taken by Berthelé remains a powerful reminder of that past. It captures a single moment, yet it tells a story that spans years, a story of peace, war, destruction, and renewal. It reminds us that behind every ruined wall and shattered stone lies a human story, one of lives interrupted and communities forever changed. Today, Allemant stands once again as a living village, but the echoes of the past are never far away. The land still holds traces of that once consumed it, and memorials stand as silent witnesses to those who lived and died there. Berthelé's image endures as a window into that time, inviting us to look closer, to imagine, and to remember. In the end, the ruins of Allemant are more than just the remains of a village. They are a testament to the cost of war and the resilience of those who rebuild in its aftermath. Through the lens of Raoul Berthelé, we are reminded that even in the face of destruction, history continues, and so does life.